Okay, so welcome back to this class. In this module two, we'll be talking about fire alarm system design. We have to understand the design of a fire alarm. Okay, so basically, we'll now be talking about the zones, fire detection zones, and the placement of your detectors and panels, and the MCP, then the layout and designs. That's what we're going to be talking about in this module. Okay, so if you look at this design now, look at the building. Let's assume this is a four-story building. Look at the ground floor, the first floor, the second floor, and the last floor. Okay, so basically, fire detection zones is ways of zoning your locations based on their areas and proximity. So, in this kind of scenario now, this diagram we have, let's study it carefully. We have a four zone panel. That's what we are using for this installation, four zone panel, meaning that zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4. So all the equipment on zone 1, we are putting them on the last floor, which is zone 1. So meaning that based on this diagram, we only have one device, which is one smoke detector and one break glass. So two devices on, you know, uh, zone 1, okay? Let's pay attention zone 1. So now, meaning that this cable from this zone 1 smoke detector and zone 1 break glass are coming down to the panel. All right. Then for zone 2, we run a cable again from this smoke detector to the other smoke detector by the staircase, then down to the break glass, then down to the panel zone 2. You will have seen the label zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. Each of the zone has their own cable terminals for positive and negative. So you just run your cable like that, which is a loop, chain connection, then down to the panel. The same thing for zone 3 and last zone, which is zone 4. All right. So on each of the zone, at the last equipment or device, you're going to be using the EOL, end of line resistor, to show you that it's a closed circuit, normally closed circuit. So the line can detect any faulty equipment or devices on that zones. Okay, so it's very important to understand these zones. So when you have a project, you're asked to come and put a fire alarm on a huge building. Learn how to zone. That's if you're using conventional panels. Learn how to zone. All right. I didn't even see this staircase. The staircase has another zone. So all the devices on the staircase belong to one zone. That's five zones. So they are using five zone panels for this kind of installation. Five zone panel. Pardon me for that. I didn't say that clearly. Okay, so five zone panel. All right, so the idea is for you to just zone your areas. So when there's a fire outbreak, you know where it's coming from. That's the idea of zoning. It's very straightforward. Let's look at this design also. If you look at this one, explanatory. Look at the wiring from each of the floors, equipment to device, down to the control panel, which is down there. And the second floor, the same thing. The third floor, the same thing. The ground floor, the same thing. So, and each of the floor has their own sounder flasher, which is that thing on the left that is wired down. You can see the sounder flasher has its own line of cable. It has its own line. It does not connect to the notification devices and the alarm devices, which is the break glass and the smoke detectors or heat detectors. It has its own line of cable, the same kind of cable. All right. So it goes straight from the first floor, second floor, third floor, and the ground floor, all straight down to the panel. So when there's a fire outbreak, everything rings just to alert the entire building, not just the zone where the fire is coming out from. So the entire building get notification and run out of the structure just to go to the muster point for safety. So this is very important. All right. So for example, okay, we'll say a zone 1 might be covering the lobby reception area. Zone 2, this is a real life scenario. You are called to an hotel, for instance, to do a survey and advise them on fire alarm installation. You can see now, you can zone the entire structure into three zones. This will now advise you the kind of equipment you're going to be buying. It's very important. So you have to learn how to zone. You get a building now, a complex, they want you to put fire alarm as an integrator, as an installer, as an expert. You have to zone the building. Oh, this area is closed. I'll put it on zone 1. This other area, they are close to each other, they are nearby, they are easily connected. Zone 2. The next one, zone 3, zone 4. So this will advise you the kind of panel you are going to be buying. So when you get to the market, you tell the market person, based on your budget, conventional panel or addressable panel. Oh, I want a conventional panel with 4 zones, because when I do my zoning of my site, it's 4 zones or it's 3 zones, but let me buy 4 zones in case my client want to add more zones, more areas in the future. Okay, so this is very important for conventional. It's called zoning. You have to learn to zone. Then for addressable, also, you can see addressable too can be zoned, but mind you, addressable are all connected on a loop, and there is a return cable that comes back to the panel in the control room. You have to note this wiring structure. It's very, very important when you are setting up a system. So the cable will come down back to the panel. In this scenario, all the devices, sounder, detector, MCP, they are on the same chain, and it goes back to the control panel. All right? It's very, very important to understand this. In this scenario, we're not using the end of line resistor, and we still categorize them on zones. So we can know that, okay, this area is this zone, this area is this zone. But trust me, all these devices on the network, they have their own address. They can be addressed. In some cases, you can give them names. Oh, living room upstairs, living room downstairs, lobby, kitchen, ground floor, kitchen, first floor, uh, core points, first floor, core point, second floor. So when there's a fire outbreak, you know the actual point where the fire is coming from, the actual location. So you can go there and address it and quench the fire. So it's very important, and this is ideal for skyscrapers, for high-rise building, condos, because it's smart. You can address a fire at the point where it is, going on. The fire point, you'll be able to identify the actual point where the fire is coming out from and go and address it from there. Instead of you running, or in the case of conventional, looking at zones. Zones is an entire area. It can be from a particular point, but you don't know the point, you just know the zones. That's for the conventional. But for addressable, you know the actual smoke detector or alarm notification devices where the uh, trigger is coming from. Then you can go there with your extinguisher, with your fire blanket to address the fire. Okay, so I hope you understand this particular class. This is the end of this particular class. I'll see you in the next class.